Once upon a most early time was a Neolithic man. He was a primitive, and he lived cavily in a cave, and he couldn't read and he couldn't write. His name was Tegumai Bopsulai, but we will call him Tegumai for short. And his wife's name was Teshumai Tevindro, but we'll call her Teshumai for short. And her daughter's name was Taffimai Metalomai, but I'm going to call her Taffy. And they were all three very happy. One day Tegumai and Taffy went down through the beaver swamp. After a while, they came to the Wagai River to spear carp fish for dinner. Tegumai's spear was made of wood with shark's teeth at the end, and before he had caught any fish at all, he accidentally broke it clean across by jabbing it down too hard on the bottom of the river.
"It will take me half the day to mend this,"
said Tegumai.
"There's a big black spear at home,"
said Taffy.
"Let me run back to the cave and ask Mommy to give it me."
"It's too far for your little legs,"
said Tegumai.
"Besides, you might fall into the beaver swamp and be drowned. We must make the best of a bad job."
He sat down and took out a little leather mendy bag, full of reindeer sinews, and strips of leather, and lumps of beeswax, and resin, and began to mend the spear. Taffy sat down too. Then she said,
"I say, Daddy, it's an awful nuisance that you and I don't know how to write, isn't it? If we did, we could send a message for the new spear."
Just then, a stranger man came along the river. He belonged to a far tribe, the Tewaras, and he did not understand one word of Tegumai's language.
"Come here,"
said Taffy.
"Do you know where my mommy lives?"
And the stranger man said, being, as you know, a Tewara.
"Don't bother, grown-ups,"
said Tegumai, so busy with his spear mending that he did not turn round.
"I aren't," said Taffy. "I only want him to do what I want him to do, and he won't understand."
The stranger man thought,
"This is a very wonderful child. She stamps her foot at me. She must be the daughter of that noble chief who is so great that he won't take any notice of me."
"Now,"
said Taffy,
"I want you to go to my mommy, because your legs are longer than mine, and you won't fall into the beaver swamp, and ask for Daddy's other spear."
The stranger man thought,
"She waves her arms and she shouts at me, but I don't understand a word of what she says."
He twisted a big flat piece of bark off a birch tree and gave it to Taffy. He did this to show that his heart was as wide as the birch bark and that he meant no harm. But Taffy did not quite understand.
"Oh,"
said she,
"now I see. You want my mommy's living address. Of course, I can't write, but I can draw pictures if I have anything sharp to scratch with. Please lend me the shark's tooth off your necklace."
Taffy put up her little hand and pointed at the necklace round his neck. So he gave Taffy the shark's tooth. And she said,
"Now I'll draw you some beautiful pictures. First I'll draw Daddy fishing. I've drawn his spear all broken. Well, now I'll draw the other spear that he wants. It looks as if it was sticking in Daddy's back, but that's because the shark's tooth slipped. That's the spear I want you to fetch, so I'll draw a picture of myself explaining to you. My hair doesn't stand up like I've drawn, but it's easier to draw that way. Now I'll draw you. I've put the spear into your hand just to remind you that you're to bring it. Now I'll show you how to find my mommy's living address. You go along till you come to 2 trees. Those are trees. And then you come into a beaver swamp, all full of beavers. I've drawn their heads, and it's all you'll see of them when you cross the swamp. Then our cave is just beyond the beaver swamp. That's my mommy outside. She's beautiful. She'll be pleased of me because I can draw. Now, in case you forget, I've drawn the spear outside our cave. It's inside really, but you show the picture to my mommy and she'll give it you. I've made her holding up her hands, because I know she'll be so pleased to see you. Do you quite understand, or shall I explain again?
The stranger man thought.
There must be a big battle going to be fought somewhere, and this child is telling me to call all the great chief's tribe to help him, or he will be slain by his enemies, who are coming up on all sides with spears.
He did not even ask Taffy the road, but raced off into the bushes like the wind, with the birch bark in his hand, and Taffy sat down most pleased.
What have you been doing, Taffy?
Said Tegumai. He had mended his spear and was carefully waving it to and fro.
It's a little derangement of my own, Daddy,
said Taffy.
You'll know all about it in a little time, and you'll be surprised. Promise you'll be surprised?
Very well, said Tegumai, and went on fishing. The stranger man hurried away with the picture and ran for some miles. Quite by accident, he'd found Teshumai Tewindro at the door of her cave, talking to some other Neolithic ladies. He smiled politely and handed Teshumai the birch bark. As soon as Teshumai saw the picture, she screamed like anything and flew at the stranger man. The other Neolithic ladies at once knocked him down and sat on him in a line while Teshumai pulled his hair. "Look!" Teshumai said, and she showed the picture to all the Neolithic ladies sitting patiently.
He has stuck my Tegumai all full of spears, and frightened poor Taffy so that her hair stands all on end, she said. And not content with that, he brings me a horrid picture of how it was done. Here is a man with a spear ready to throw. Here is another man throwing a spear from a cave, and here are a whole pack of people coming up behind Tegumai. Isn't it shocking?
"Most shocking!" said the Neolithic ladies, and they beat upon the reverberating tribal drums and called together all the chiefs of the tribe of Tegumai with her hetmans and dormans and neguses, woons and aghoons of the organization, in addition to the warlocks, agoncocks, juju men, bonzes and the rest, who decided that before they chopped the stranger man's head off, he should instantly lead them down to the river and show them where he had hidden poor Taffy. And so they were assembled. First of all walked Teshumai holding the stranger man and the Neolithic ladies. Behind them came the head chief, and behind him was the tribe in hierarchical order. When they reached the Wagai River, they found Taffy and Tegumai spearing carp with his mended spear.
"Why, you have been quick,"
said Taffy.
"But why did you bring so many people? Daddy dear, this is my surprise. Are you surprised, Daddy?"
Very,
said Tegumai.
Why, the whole tribe is here, Taffy.
Then Teshumai Tewindro ran down and kissed and hugged Taffy very much indeed, but the head chief and the tribe of Tegumai all cried,
Explain! 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 The stranger man came with a horrible picture,
said the head chief.
A picture that showed you were full of spears.
Perhaps I better explain that I gave him that picture,
said Taffy. You? said the tribe of Tegumai all together.
You? Taffy dear, I'm afraid we're in for a little trouble,
said her daddy, and put his arm round her so she didn't care.
I wanted the stranger man to fetch Daddy's spear, so I drawed it,
said Taffy.
There wasn't lots of spears. There was only one spear. I drawed it 3 times to make sure. I couldn't help it looking as if it was stuck into Daddy's head. There wasn't room on the birch bark, and those things are my beavers. I drawed him to show him the way through the swamp, and I drawed Mommy at the mouth of the cave looking pleased, because he is a nice stranger man, and I think you are just the stupidest people in the world,
said Taffy. Nobody said anything at all for a long time, till the head chief laughed. Then the stranger man laughed. Then Tegumai laughed. Then all the tribe laughed, more and worse and louder. The only people who did not laugh were Teshumite Hevendro and all the Neolithic ladies. Then the head chief of the tribe of Tegumai said,
"Oh, Taffy, you've hit upon a great invention, and someday men will call it writing. At present it is only pictures, and as we have seen today, pictures are not always properly understood. But a time will come when we shall make letters, all 26 of them, and when we shall be able to read as well as to write, and then we shall always say exactly what we mean without any mistakes. Taffy dear, the next time you write a picture letter, you'd better send a man who can talk our language with it to explain what it means."
And from that day to this, and I suppose it's all Taffy's fault, very few little girls have ever liked learning to read or write. Most of them prefer to draw pictures and play about with their daddies, just like Taffy.